What if the person Luffy has been fighting his entire life isn't Blackbeard, isn't Akainu, isn't even a pirate at all? What if the real final enemy has been sitting on an empty throne watching Luffy since before he was even born? Most One Piece fans haven't figured out, right? Blackbeard is the final villain, or maybe Akainu, the man who killed Ace, the man Luffy swore he'd never forgive. Those are the two names you see everywhere. Every Reddit thread, every YouTube video, every comment section. And look, I get it. Those rivalries are real. The emotions are real. Blackbeard stole everything from Luffy. Akainu took his brother. But here's the thing. Oda doesn't do obvious. Oda never has. And there is one figure, bitterly shown, barely named, who changes everything we think we know about this story. His name is Imu, and by the end of this video, I think you're going to believe, like I do, that Imu is the final enemy Luffy was always meant to face. Let's start with what we actually know, because what we know is already insane. Imu is the secret ruler of the entire world, not the Five Elders, not the world government on paper. Imu, a single individual sitting on the empty throne, a throne that, according to the entire world's history, was never supposed to be occupied by anyone. The whole philosophy of the world government is that no one rules alone, no single person holds absolute power. That's the lie they built civilization on. And Imu shattered it, quietly, in the shadows, for potentially centuries. We see Imu for the first time in Marie Joie, walking through a dark chamber filled with giant portraits. And two of those portraits, Luffy and Vivi. Imu holds a photo of Luffy, then pierces it with something sharp, slow, deliberate, like a message. That's not a coincidence. That's not just a cool scene. That is Oda telling you, this person knows who Monkey D. Luffy is, and they want him gone. Now here's where it gets deep. The Void Century, 100-year gap in history that the world government has erased. Reading the poneglyphs is illegal. Scholars who study it disappear. Ohara, an entire island of archaeologists, was destroyed, burned. Robin's entire people were wiped out just for asking questions. Why would you destroy knowledge unless that knowledge could destroy you? We know the ancient kingdom existed. We know it fell. We know the world government rose from that fall. And we know that whoever controls the truth of that century controls the story of the entire world. But here's the crazy part. What if Imu was there? What if Imu isn't just a ruler, but a survivor? Someone who has lived through the Void Century itself. Someone who isn't just old, but ancient. The empty throne has been kept empty as a symbol, a contract between the founding kingdoms that said no one person rules. But someone sat on it anyway, has been sitting on it, maybe for 800 years. Imu might not be a normal human at all. There are theories that Imu's age, their power, their ability to exist this long, it's connected to the ancient weapons, to the devil fruits, to something that hasn't been revealed yet. And if that's true, then the world government isn't just a corrupt organization. It's an 800-year-old lie, built, maintained, and protected by a single shadow immortal. Now think about what Luffy represents. Not just a pirate, not just a guy who wants to be king of the pirates. Luffy represents something Imu cannot allow to exist. Freedom. Pure, uncontrollable, unchainable freedom. Luffy has never once cared about power for power's sake. He doesn't want to rule the world. He doesn't want to conquer anything. He just wants to be free, and he wants everyone around him to be free too. That's it. That's his whole dream. And Imu? Imu is the single greatest force of control in the entire One Piece world. Everything, the Marines, the Warlords, the Celestial Dragons, the poneglyphs being illegal, all of it flows back to one throne, one will, one person who decided 800 years ago that the world must be ordered, contained, and controlled. These two aren't just enemies. They are opposites, cosmic opposites, the kind of rivalry that Oda has been quietly building since the very first chapter. Imu represents the world as it is, structured, controlled, fearful, and built on a lie. Luffy represents the world as it could be,
free, chaotic, joyful, and honest. That's not a fight over treasure or power. That's a fight over the soul of the world. Okay, now I want you to sit with this for a second. Imu had Luffy's picture before Luffy even made it to the Grand Line, before Marineford, before Dressrosa, before Wano, before all of it. Imu was already paying attention, already threatened, already watching.
What if I told you? What if
that's
Egghead
not
arc
new?
isn't
What if
just
Imu has
another
always
arc?
had a way of
It's the
identifying
moment
people
that
who
starts
carry a
the
specific
end of the
kind
world
of will,
in One Piece.
the kind the ancient
Because
kingdom
after
carry,
this,
the
there's
will
no
of
going
D.
back.
Monkey
Only
D.
war.
Luffy.
Right now, the
D
Egghead
isn't
arc
just
is reaching
name.
its breaking
It's been
point.
called the will
The
of the
smartest
D.
man in the world
Characters
is
who
targeted.
carry it
The Marines
consistently
are
clash
closing
with the
in,
heavens,
and
with
chaos
fate,
is
with the
everywhere.
gods of this world.
But this isn't
Roger
just a
had it.
random
Ace
conflict.
had it.
This
Whitebeard
is the
laughed
moment
when he
where
talked
everything
about it.
begins
Even
to
the five
connect.
elders fear
Pirates,
it.
Marines,
and Imu,
revolutionaries,
sitting alone in the dark
all
for
moving
centuries,
at the same
may have
time.
been watching
And
every
the biggest
single
powers
person
in the
born with
world
that initial,
are finally
tracking
about
them,
to collide.
eliminating them,
Because
slowly
after
bleeding
Egghead
out
ends,
the bloodline
the balance
of the ancient
world
kingdom,
will be
so that no one
completely
ever
destroyed.
rises to
So
challenge
what actually
the lie.
happens next?
But here's the crazy
Let's
part.
start with the
They
biggest
missed one.
trigger.
Or maybe
Egghead
they couldn't
doesn't
stop
end
this
quietly.
one. Because
No.
Luffy isn't
Something
just someone
massive
with the will
happens.
of D.
Something
Luffy is
so
the one
shocking
who awakened
that it
the Nika
shakes
fruit,
the entire
the sun
world.
god, the mythical
Maybe
power
a
that
major
the world
character
government
dies.
renamed,
Maybe
sealed
a secret
away,
is
and
revealed.
literally erased
Or
from
maybe
history.
the truth about the
very
world
thing
starts
Imu
leaking
feared
out.
most is
And
wearing a
that's
straw
when
hat
everything
and
begins.
laughing. Let
The
me give you
world
a few
government
things that
realizes
cement this
something
for me.
terrifying.
One,
They can't
Joy
control
Boy.
the
We've heard this
situation
name
anymore.
going back to the
So
Fishman
what do
Island
they
arc.
do?
Joy
They go
Boy made a
all
promise
out.
he couldn't
A
keep.
full-scale
Nico
military
Robin said it
response.
herself. And at the end of
Admirals,
Wano,
fleets,
when Luffy
secret
awakens
weapons,
Gear 5,
everything.
Zanesha
But
says
here's
this
where
is
it
the
gets
drums
crazy.
of liberation.
This isn't just
Joy
about
Boy has
stopping
returned.
one pirate crew.
Returned,
This becomes
not
a war
appeared.
against everyone
Returned,
who threatens
like a
their
cycle,
rule.
like
And
someone
that
who existed
includes
before
Luffy.
and
Now
has now
think about
come
it.
back.
Luffy isn't just
Two,
a pirate
the ancient
anymore.
weapons.
He's
Pluton,
a Yonko,
Poseidon,
a symbol,
Uranus,
a threat
weapons
to
of
the entire
world-ending
system.
power.
And
Imu
after
seems
Egghead,
already
his
to control
actions
at
could
least one.
inspire
We
rebellion
saw what happened
across
to
the
Lucia
world.
Kingdom. It was
Which means
erased.
the government
An entire
doesn't just
island
want to
gone
stop him.
by something
They
from
want to
above.
erase
A
him.
weapon
But
Imu
Luffy
activated
isn't
with a
alone.
tiny model
At the
of the
same
world.
time, other major
That is a
players start
god-level
making
power,
their moves.
and the person
Let's
holding
talk
it is
about
threatened by a
Shanks.
boy in a straw
Shanks has
hat.
been quiet for a long
Three,
time.
the straw
Too
hat in
quiet.
Marijois,
But recently,
that giant
he's
frozen
finally
straw hat
stepping
kept
forward.
in a special chamber
Why
in the
now?
holiest
Because
place
he
in the
knows
world,
something
like a
is
trophy
coming.
or a
And
warning,
here's the theory.
or maybe
Shanks
prison.
isn't just
Oda
watching
put
Luffy.
that there for a
He's
reason.
testing him.
He doesn't do
He
random.
wants to see
Every
if
single
Luffy
panel
is truly
matters.
ready for
and the
what's
idea
about
that the
to
straw
happen.
hat,
But
Luffy's
here's
most
the crazy
personal
part.
symbol,
What if
might have a
Shanks
history
doesn't
that goes
help
back
Luffy?
to the Void Century.
What if he
to Joy
stands
Boy
in his
himself?
way? Not
That's
as
not
an
a theory
enemy,
anymore.
but as the
That's a
final
prophecy.
test before the truth of the
So,
world is
here's what I
revealed.
think the end of One Piece
Imagine
looks like.
this. A
The final
clash
war
between
is coming.
Luffy and
Oda
Shanks,
himself has
not
said it.
out of hatred,
This isn't
but
speculation.
destiny.
The story has
And the
been
winner
building toward a
moves one
world-scale
step closer
conflict
to
from
the
the very
final
beginning.
truth. Now,
And it
let's
won't
bring
be
in
Luffy versus
Blackbeard,
Blackbeard as the
because
final
while
fight.
everyone's distracted,
Blackbeard is the
Blackbeard
mirror,
is
the dark
doing what
version
he
of
always
Luffy,
does,
the one who
waiting,
wants the treasure
planning,
without the dream.
striking at the
That fight happens. It's brutal. It's emotional. It might even be close. But then, when the dust settles, when the ancient weapons are in play, when the truth of the Void Century is finally revealed to the entire world, Imu steps out of the shadows, and for the first time in 800 years, the world sees its true ruler. I think that reveal breaks the world. I think the giants, the revolutionaries, the remnants of the Whitebeard pirates, the allies from every arc, Nami, Zoro, Robin, all of them, are pushed to their absolute limits just trying to survive what Imu unleashes. And then, Luffy stands up. Because that's what Luffy does. He always stands up. Beaten, broken, crying. And then he stands up. Because he made a promise. Because his friends are still breathing. Because somewhere out there, there's a world that hasn't been freed yet. The fight between Luffy and Imu isn't a fight with punches and powers at its core. Though, yes, Gear 5 versus whatever ancient force Imu wields will be legendary. It's a fight between memory and erasure, between truth and the lie, between 800 years of control and one generation finally saying, enough. And here's my most out there prediction. Brace yourself. I don't think Luffy kills Imu. I think Luffy liberates Imu. Because what if Imu at some ancient point was trapped, bound to that throne by a deal, a curse, a power that required someone to sit there and maintain the order of the world, or something worse would happen. And what if Luffy, being Luffy, doesn't destroy the enemy? He liberates them. That would be the most Oda thing ever written. That would make every person who's read this manga since they were a kid absolutely lose their mind on the page. It would mean that the final victory of One Piece isn't the death of evil. It's the end of a cage that the entire world was living inside, including its captor. One Piece has always been about one thing underneath all the adventure and the power-ups and the devil fruits and the tears. It's about what freedom actually means. Not just freedom to sail wherever you want, not just freedom to eat whatever weird fruit you find, but the deepest kind of freedom, the freedom to exist as who you are, to carry your will forward, to refuse to let the world